welcome to the Campfire. Today we have Hannah Finney, who's here with us to talk about the work that she does at Samsung Research America. Very exciting, and a topic that we haven't yet talked about on the Campfire. So really excited to have you here, Hannah. Hannah has her MA in linguistics from San Francisco State University. Woohoo! And she also has some background in framing, which we'll hear more about next week. But hopefully Hannah can give us a little bit of, we'll kind of dip into her background, I'm sure, as we tell her story. But I think a great place to start would be where you're at now. You know, I know people love to hear details of work, and especially since you're, you know, relatively new at your position, I think you're kind of in a mindset where you can kind of remember what it's like to be at a new workplace. So bring us into your day to day.
Okay. So yeah, thanks again for having me on. I'm really excited to be doing this. I am currently, as you said, at Samsung Research America. There's a campus down in Mountain View, so it's the heart of Silicon Valley. And I live in San Francisco, so it's kind of a crazy commute. I won't even tell you how long.
You do those buses?
I do bus, I do train, Caltrain, all of it.
Oh man.
I get a lot done on the train, which is the good side of it. But yeah, I started very recently, just about 4 months ago, and it feels like a lot longer though, because the days are really long and really intense. And that might sound like a bad thing that it feels longer, but I think it's actually a good thing because I feel like I'm maximizing each day basically. So my official position is actually linguist, the title, which they also call us language experts, so linguist / LE we're called. And I'm on a pretty small team of LEs, linguists, of 12. Actually, I'm one of 12, so 11 other linguists. And we work it's really collaborative. And we work a lot with other engineers and QA testers, project managers, most closely probably with the engineers and QA testers. So there's a lot more people. And the project, I should have said at the beginning, is called Bixby, and it's Samsung's answer basically to the voice personal assistant thing that's going on.
Yeah.
You know, competition for Apple's Siri, Google's Google Assistant, Cortana.
I have a Samsung. I'm excited.
Yeah, well, it's improving all the time. Definitely, work in progress. But yeah, so we're on the Bixby team, and Bixby was officially released a couple months ago. There's actually a Bixby button on the new Samsung Galaxy 8 phones. And then, and there was some support for all of the core features of the phone, and now we're working on developing, support for more and more applications, more and more apps. And so the ultimate goal is basically for Bixby is to be able, for the user to be able to do anything with their phone through voice commands that they could do with through touch. And that's a pretty all-encompassing goal.
So what is your work in that team?
Yeah, so I was gonna say, I think the linguist teams, one of our primary tasks is creating the training data for the machine learning models to be able to process these commands, utterances from users, and actually accomplish on the phone what the user wants to accomplish. And so we write these things called grammars, actually. And they're basically, a grammar is a file, and in it, so the way things are kind of organized and divided up is by domain, they're called, but a domain is basically an app. So by app. And then for each app, there are a particular number of rules, they're called, which are basically like sample or kind of idealized utterance that wants to achieve a particular intent on the phone. So an example is, open my, whatever your text messaging app is. So open my text messenger and write a text to Joe, saying I'll see you later, and send it. Something like that. So that could be a sample utterance basically for a rule. And with that, if a user says that to a phone, you would expect, if you have a well-functioning voice, product that would carry out that task to completion. So what we do for each of these rules is create grammars that they're called substitution grammars, and they basically take all the words that you could think of that could express this intent and come up with a bunch of synonyms for each word, and they have to be contextually valid synonyms, which is very important, obviously. And then we think of those synonyms, and then we think of basically different syntactic combinations of the utterances, and that all goes in a grammar file for each of these rules. And then from there, we expand these out, it's called. So there's a script that takes these substitution grammars and expands them into however many utterances you specify. It's usually thousands, so 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 utterances. Wow. And it basically combines all different words in the syntactic combinations that you specified, and then for each rule, for each intent, and then that is the training data, basically, that is fed to the models, fed to machine learning models. And so that's in a nutshell, that is one of the main tasks.
So how do you learn how to do that? Did you arrive knowing how to do that?
No. In the interview, they said, my interviewee on the phone and then in person said something about grammar writing, and, coming from an academic background, I was like, well, I know what grammar is. I don't know what grammar in the context of whatever you're talking about is, because obviously they didn't give me, enough, quite as much information. And so, I said, I know about semantics and syntax. I'm sure I could do it.
And I guess you do. You can.
Yeah. And honestly, the grammar writing part for most of us, I'll speak for the LE team, is probably the most fun part, and also one of the easiest parts of the tasks that we're doing right now. It's not actually that complex linguistically, I would say. Basically just it's kind of basic, synonym finding, syntax variance, and a little bit of morphology and parts of speech. It's relatively straightforward. We have been handed over the last couple months more and more of the engineering tasks, because some of the engineers have automated some of the machine learning steps, and automated I'll use air quotes because inevitably, things go wrong even in this kind of automated setup that they have for us, where we're just ideally supposed to click a few buttons and it triggers the model and it trains, and then it finishes, and we can run these batch tests, which I'll get into in a minute. So it's supposed to be really, really pretty simple, but we have ended up doing a lot of debugging, which we're all trying to help with. A couple of us have on the LE team have a computational linguistics background, and so they have been the ones who have really been able to do that the most. But we're all learning. I mean, there's not a lot of actual code writing, but a lot of it is kind of looking at different servers and command line and kind of seeing where things are and transferring files and things like that. So that's I would say, the more difficult part for me, at least, and learning more about those processes. But yeah.
So when you say the grammar writing is the easier, it's in comparison to a task like that, for example.
Yeah.
Or-
Yeah.
Or are there other?
I think, yes, for me, but I think like the grammar writing part, I think is relatively doable for anyone who's taken, who has an undergrad degree in linguistics, or
That's good to hear.
yeah, it's not, yeah, it's basically just like, do you care about language, and do you pay attention, and do you know a little bit about, again, like parts of speech, more, morphosyntax, but like not on the technical level that you get into in grad school at all. Yeah, it's really just thinking, putting yourself in the place of a user with their phone and thinking, what could they possibly say, that would be natural for them to say, and trying to represent as many of those combinations as possible.
Well, Hannah, thank you so much. This has been very elucidating. I hope that maybe you've sparked some questions that have yet to be asked. But if people wanted to find you to follow up, how would they go about that? Are you?
Yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn. I am also totally willing to give out my personal email. But yeah, LinkedIn is a great place. Again, like I think one of your previous speakers said, just write me a little note, just to let me know that you're contacting me because you watched the talk or whatever.
I think that needs to be reiterated often.
Yeah.
It's important. Good email. I mean, good LinkedIn. It makes such a difference.
Yeah, it does.
That's great.
Yeah, please contact me. I would love to answer. I mean, like you said, I was just kind of recently in the job search phase, and so I know very much what it's like, and I would love to, pass it forward.
Fantastic.